Now to 2020, America Decides. Tonight, we've learned that more than 75 million Americans have already voted. That's more than half the total turnout from 2016. And with just 6 days of voting left, President Trump kept up his battleground blitz in the West. And there's no escaping the campaign's #1 issue. CBS's Ed O'Keefe joins us here in our new election headquarters. Good evening, Ed.
Good evening, Nora. The coronavirus pandemic continues to dominate the campaign more than any other issue. And despite evidence that it's only worsening, the president is claiming the opposite, a risky move as he courts late deciding voters today in western states.
Hello, Arizona.
President Trump stumped through Arizona and Nevada today, trying to reverse Joe Biden's lead in the polls in both states. And he continued to argue the coronavirus, raging in record numbers across the country, is under control.
Because we understand it now. We understand it. People are getting better.
Even plans for one of his signature rallies in Nevada had to be scrapped because the thousands of supporters expected to attend would far outnumber statewide limits for in-person gatherings. So the president was forced to court Nevadans from just over the border in northern Arizona.
And hello to everybody right here in Nevada. I love Nevada, too.
Mr. Trump's rallies are causing problems elsewhere. Last night in Omaha, Nebraska, after he finished speaking, some supporters were stranded for hours in the freezing cold because of a traffic jam. Some ended up hospitalized.
He gets his photo op and then he gets out. He leaves everyone else to suffer the consequence of his failure to make a responsible plan. It seems like he just doesn't care much about it.
Biden was home in Delaware today to cast his vote with his wife, Jill, and to meet with public health officials about how the pandemic is disproportionately affecting minorities. He once again criticized the president's handling of the virus.
I'm not running on the false promise of being able to end this pandemic by flipping a switch. But what I can promise you is this. We will start on day one doing the right things. We'll let science drive our decisions. We will deal honestly with the American people.
The president is also hearing it from his own health officials. His coronavirus testing czar today contradicting claims that cases are only rising because of increased testing.
It's not just a function of testing. Yes, we're getting more cases identified, but the cases are actually going up. And we know that, too, because hospitalizations are going up. And we do know that deaths are increasing, unfortunately.
And new evidence tonight, the president was wresting control of the response to the virus from his own health officials in April as the virus was spreading. Son-in-law Jared Kushner telling the Washington Post's Bob Woodward,
Trump's now back in charge. It's not the doctors.
Democrats have capitalized on voter frustration with the pandemic in places like Arizona, where Kamala Harris also campaigned today, and she took aim at the president for repeatedly calling her a left-wing radical.
There has been some talk about my values. Well, let me just tell you, Tucson, I am a proud, patriotic American. I love my country. And our values reflect the values of America.
And Ed, I understand there's some breaking news just coming in about the Supreme Court, from the Supreme Court, that could impact the battleground of Pennsylvania?
It could. The Supreme Court deciding not to intervene in Pennsylvania in a case regarding whether or not they should allow ballots that come in at least 3 days after Election Day to be counted. So in essence, state officials can start counting them when they come in. Republicans have been pushing the high court to take up the case. Conservative justices today signaled they might like to revisit the issue next week if Pennsylvania is in play and this is still a concern. And we should point out Justice Amy Coney Barrett was not involved in today's decision. But as you said, a big reminder, Pennsylvania, a huge factor next week.
Yeah, we're going to be following a lot of these legal battles for the next week and beyond. Thank you, Ed O'Keefe.